I were to ask, what are some of the best moves in Smash 4? What kind of answers would I get? Cloud up air?
Alright, up airs.
This man can
Corn insta-pin.
punches of defeat anywhere. He's at almost maximum range, but he got kicked into the blast zone.
Shoryuken?
No! Kinda kill.
What about Game & Watch's bucket? Yeah, really. What other move do you know that's frame 2, can deal up to 60%, kill at 0, has huge disjoint, can be confirmed out of a grab? However, despite the power of this move, it's very matchup specific, and it's on a character that nobody really plays anymore.
At least after he was nerfed in doubles.
Because of this, there are a lot of misconceptions and confusion regarding how this move actually works. So, to clear this up, I've prepared a comprehensive guide to just how Game & Watch's bucket works, and how to properly utilize it, as well as counterplay it. For commentators out there, this is a great source to pull from if you ever find yourself casting this obscure character. So, what exactly determines how powerful a bucket becomes? Well, first of all, bucket has a minimum power as well as a maximum power that it can achieve based on what fills it. No matter what fills the bucket, it will always do at least 18% base damage, and it can only ever do up to 60% base damage. Everything in between is determined on what projectiles fill it up. Absorb a move that does less than 10% and you will fill one slot. Absorb a move that does between 10 and 20% and it'll fill 2 slots. Any move that you absorb that does 20% or more will fill an entire bucket in one go. Bear with me because this is where it gets tricky. Whatever the bucket absorbs, it will multiply the damage that projectile would have done by 2.8. I will use Mario's Fireball as an example. As you can see from this chart, every time Game & Watch absorbs a Fireball from Mario, that 5% is being multiplied by 2.8 for a total of 14%. Fill 3 slots with 14% each and you get a total damage output of 42%. Pretty strong. Of course, scaling affects the bucket's power in 2 ways. First, how stale the projectile is that it absorbs, and of course, how stale the bucket attack is itself. Though this second one shouldn't be too much of a factor since bucket isn't the kind of move you really use consecutively. Here's a graph showing the power of a bucket depending on what the power of the projectile is it absorbs, assuming that it absorbs it until full. As you can see, there's a dip right around 10% and a second one around 20%. Why is that? Well, there is a strange catch with how the bucket processes its projectiles. Even though some moves can fill more than one slot of bucket at a time, each can only be responsible for 20% of damage output each. I'll use Sheik's Vanish as an example. Sheik's Vanish does 12%, so when it's first absorbed, it fills 2 slots and gets multiplied by the 2.8 for a total of 33.6. That's fine, however, when a second Vanish is absorbed, only 1 slot is left, and what would be another 33% is reduced down to 20. Add those 2 together, and you get a 53% bucket. This creates a weird counterintuitive puzzle when it comes to optimizing the power of your bucket. For instance, a full Samus charge shot does 25%, so when it enters the bucket, it fills all 3 slots, gets multiplied to 70%, and then maxes out at the bucket's inherent 60% limit. Now, if you absorb an uncharged shot first, doing 3% and getting multiplied to about 8, then fill the rest with a full charge shot, those 2 slots can only output 40% damage total. So you'll end up with a bucket that's still powerful, but weaker than if you just absorbed 1 full shot. There is no such thing as overfilling a bucket. As far as what the bucket can absorb, well, there's already a video on that subject, so I'll post a link to it in the description, but here's a quick rundown. Alright, I hope that clears up some confusion about how Game & Watch's bucket actually works. Stay tuned for part 2 where I will discuss how to best use this tool in competitive play, how to play against it, and a couple other little tricks you can use bucket for that you might not already know about. Thanks for watching.